Live from Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah.
Welcome to the Double D Podcast, breaking down the news of the week and whatever else is on our mind with a little bit of wrestling mixed in for taste, sort of like cinnamon. So grab some Doritos and a Diet Coke, then sit back and relax because it's time for the Double D with your host and self-proclaimed pop culture experts, Damian Nelson and David Hero.
Welcome, everybody, here to another edition of the Double D Podcast. I'm one half of the Double D, Damian Nelson, here with my trusty sidekick, David Octavius Tiberius, the alleged backyard one-time knockout, hardcore Hall of Famer hero. David, how are you here on Thanksgiving Eve?
You know what, man? I am fantastic. I know you're recovering as well as I am from, our trip to Atlanta.
Hotlanta.
Where it was a weekend full of shenanigans. And Mean Gene Mania and ISIS threats and beautiful women. And, man, Atlanta took real good care of us.
Atlanta is a tremendous city, an absolutely fantastic city, and it was a great weekend for sure. We're going to talk about that here on the Double D, talk about the Survivor Series, talk about several things going on in the world, and talk about some of the latest goings-on in professional wrestling, including, well, David, Raw gets its lowest score, its lowest rating since the Attitude Era this past Monday night. We'll see if that means anything. Cesaro injured, out 6 months with a shoulder injury, rotator cuff surgery, it looks like, and a bleak outlook for the immediate future of WWE. We're going to talk about all that here today on the Double D Podcast. But first, as you talked about, Survivor Series was this past Sunday. We were there live at Phillips Arena in Atlanta, Georgia. And as we talked about on our social media channels over the course of the weekend, as you heard, there were threats of violence, threats of an attack from ISIS. Which, does anybody know what ISIS means? Do you know what ISIS means?
Yes, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Well, be that as it may.
Whoa. You're shocked that I know that, aren't you?
Actually, I'm not shocked that you know that. But it was, it was a big deal, I guess, David. We arrived in town Friday and Saturday. I got there Friday, you got there Saturday, and the news broke just after you and Gene landed. You and me and Gene landed on Saturday, and it was a non-confirmed but somewhat credible threat against the WWE Survivor Series to take place on Sunday evening at Phillips Arena. And a lot of people, not necessarily me or you, were very concerned about people attending the event. And I guess, I don't know, maybe I'm desensitized to the whole thing, but really sensitive about the whole thing because I was never scared. Not at any point was I scared. I guess the philosophy was I'm going to the Survivor Series, and I trust that since we know somebody's going to try something, nobody's going to get away with anything. Right,
exactly. And who would have thought that ISIS was that much against Roman Reigns? That they'd be willing to try to sabotage the paper.
No. This is, again, all your fault. What they did was they watched Be the Booker. They listened to PWR Primetime and its early release on Friday here on the PWR Now Network. They heard you and Be the Booker say that Dean Ambrose would win the WWE World Championship at the Survivor Series, and they took action to make sure that didn't happen.
It's true, and it is true. But, Damien, we were walking into that building, and there were troops with machine guns walking around us.
Yeah, pretty daunting, wasn't it?
I mean, I wanted to take pictures of it, and you wouldn't let me. You know what I mean?
No, you wanted to talk to them and take pictures with them, and I advised that may not be the best of ideas.
And that's because...
For several reasons.
And that's because, I'm part Arabic, part Lebanese and Syrian. And you figured that... Of course, you know that.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah. So that that's why I was profiled coming down, from Milwaukee to Atlanta. I got stopped every time. I got wanded and waved and everything.
We were on high alert.
We were. It was. And then, of course, we had the military helicopters flying above us. Mm-hmm. It was an interesting Sunday. It really was.
It really was. And the most interesting part of Sunday, though, ended up being the fact that it would be 2 new World Heavyweight Champions crowned at the Survivor Series, the first of which being Roman Reigns, who won the tournament, who won the championship to great pomp and circumstance, confetti, pyrotechnics, all of that. Celebration for Roman Reigns, who won. And it felt like Atlanta was more for Roman Reigns than against Roman Reigns in that initial win.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? When all of a sudden the confetti and everything, I'm like, wow, you know what? They're really doing their thing to make him the guy. And then, of course, Triple H came out and gets speared by Reigns, and all of a sudden he turns around and gets bro-kicked by Sheamus and cashes in. And I mean, you know, everyone kept saying, oh, Sheamus will cash in, Sheamus will cash in. I didn't see it happening. And it makes all the sense in the world now that it did happen, because now there's heat for Reigns and Sheamus, and Reigns is better chasing than he is being the champion, because, like I said on Primetime, unless Roman Reigns beats Brock Lesnar or Seth Rollins, his title run means nothing.
Yeah.
And now he gets to chase, you know, a villain, a bad guy, a heel that stole his title from him.
But all in all, and as you talked about, it was indeed the celebration. Then Triple H comes out to seemingly congratulate Romans or welcome him to the dark side, I guess, is what he was hoping. And then it would be a spear to Triple H. And as Reigns got up, Brogue Kick 1, only a 2 count, followed by Brogue Kick 2, 3 count. Sheamus is the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. But did they have to? Was this not very well executed as far as making it seem like this was Roman Reigns' moment? He finally did it after winning the Royal Rumble, then going to WrestleMania and getting screwed by a Money in the Bank cash-in, and then coming to Survivor Series, becoming the number 1 contender. Then Seth Rollins gets injured. Now he has to fight in the tournament. Are they building him as the underdog? Are they building him as the man who will never get it, just for that day, that moment, that time when he actually does?
That's exactly how it seems right now. They're telling a story that they hope will transcend to the fans finally getting behind Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. Because you gotta believe that WrestleMania has got to be the pinnacle for Roman Reigns, for a guy that has had nothing but bad luck for the past year. Yeah. As far as becoming the world champion.
You know, a lot of people saying that because Reigns won or because Sheamus won and that those two things, I guess, primarily, that Survivor Series was a horrible pay-per-view. It was a bad pay-per-view. Now, it's always different when you're there live. We were there live. And from a live event perspective, I thoroughly enjoyed the entire event. I can't say that they were all 5-star matches or that it was all perfect, but I can say that I enjoyed the event and the presentation. Now, I, of course, was wishing for and hoping for a Roman Reigns win. That did happen, but I was reeled in and brought in by the Sheamus cash-in as well. So from a live event perspective, for me anyways, Survivor Series gets a passing grade.
You know, I mean, for me, the event was flat. The biggest pops of the night were for the return of Goldust and, of course, The Undertaker.
Yes.
I mean, that's what the people got into. I thought that the match between Paige and Charlotte was terrible.
Terrible.
Absolutely terrible. Because, and here's why. On Monday Night Raw, Paige insults and ridicules and makes fun of the death of Charlotte's baby brother, Reed. Uh-huh. Okay? Let me tell you something. If my brother were to die, no matter how he dies, car accident, drug overdose, whatever it is, and someone goes to me in the middle of the ring and says, boy, your brother didn't have enough fight in him, he died. I'll tell you this, in real life, I would rip that person's eyeballs out.
Right, yeah.
And that did not happen on Sunday. They had a wrestling match. Mm-hmm. It should have been a fight. Charlotte should have been going to kill her, break her neck, break her leg, break her back, whatever it takes. You know, and the way that match should have been put together was that Charlotte should have been bouncing Paige all around the ring, the entire match, beating her ass, whipping her. You know, eye rakes, back rakes, kicks, punches, the whole thing. And then out of nowhere, somehow Paige rolls her up for a quick win, 1, 2, 3. That way, Paige not only breaks her heart by referencing her brother, but then steals her championship. Now you have a ton of heat. And now you have a ton of sympathy on Charlotte, for now the audience wants to see her get her revenge on Paige at the next pay-per-view. Yep. And that didn't happen. They went out there and they had a regular match, and she makes Paige submit to the figure 8, leg lock. And then when she wins, she lets go. Charlotte never should have let go of that move. The referee should have had to make her break it. And that did not happen. I think that they completely dropped the ball on an angle that offended and hurt a lot of people, and they didn't get their money's worth out of it.
Huh. All right. Well, but that wasn't one of the highlights of the night, if you will, at least going into it. We knew it was the celebration of 25 years of The Undertaker. We knew that the Brothers of Destruction would take on the Wyatts. We knew that the Wyatts would plan for shenanigans. But we also wanted to celebrate the legacy, the time, the life, the career of The Undertaker. And we got that chance with that absolutely, and who expected anything less, but with that absolutely amazing entrance of The Undertaker and Kane. It was epic, and really that was not even the match per se, but the arrival experience of The Undertaker was, I think, the highlight of the night.
Oh my! It was. I mean, you know what? And for us, we watched a lot of the Attitude Era. We were fans during that era, so we saw Taker every week.
Yeah.
Sometimes 2 or 3 times a week,
right.
And it's not like we took it for granted. We knew how special he was.
Yeah.
But boy, we really realized how special of a talent he is when we saw him on Sunday.
Yeah.
And just the respect from the 14,000 fans and the way he went in there and did business. And yeah, some people are saying, wow, why wouldn't Taker put Bray Wyatt over? It's The Undertaker, okay? He just did great business putting over Brock Lesnar, all right? And let's face it, he's a phenom. He is a legend right now, and legends don't die.
It's that rhetoric, if you will, is just getting old and played to me. These fans who don't understand or know, or can't look at the big picture and where this is going versus where it is. It's not about putting over Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt didn't lose a bit of steam coming out of Survivor Series this past Sunday, nor did The Undertaker. Now, did either of them gain anything? No. But was it entertaining? Was it fun for that one night? Absolutely. I don't care who won the match. It was entertaining. And
Agreed.
I thought that wrestling was entertainment.
It is. And it is. And you know what? Everyone's like, oh, well, they buried Bray Wyatt. No, they didn't. Undertaker let Bray Wyatt and his goons beat him down at the last pay-per-view at Hell in a Cell, right, and drag him to the back.
Right, and then get a month out of it with the funerals and the
that's the heat.
That. Yeah,
that's the heat.
Yep,
right there.
Yep.
And now they got the rub with the Undertaker.
Yep. Well, it would be a tournament for to determine the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. It would be Alberto Del Rio, Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose. The finals would end up being Ambrose versus Reigns, as many people predicted. And a lot of people were for Ambrose, but a lot of people were for Reigns. This was a longer match than I expected it to be. Did they do what they needed to do to give the necessary credibility to Roman Reigns in that matchup with Dean Ambrose, where he beat Ambrose to become the champion?
I'll be honest, I thought the match was short.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that they could have done more. I think they could have done more where it's 2 guys, 2 best buddies, going back and forth, doing some stuff. I mean, I was surprised how quick the match ended, but then again, it makes sense because you had to have the whole big pomp and circumstance, for the victory with Reigns, and then you have Triple H come down and then Sheamus cash in. So I get that. But, I mean, Dean Ambrose, for as much as everyone likes him, and even the guys in the back appreciate the team player that Dean Ambrose is.
He's very talented.
He is talented, but there's just that one move he does where he falls through the rope but doesn't fall through the rope. He does it too much, and that drives me insane.
Yeah.
But I mean, let's face it, Dean Ambrose, he looks like a regular guy.
Who hasn't eaten in a while.
Yeah, I mean, he's gotten really lean.
Yeah.
He looks jacked. He's really lean. And, you have to ask yourself, is that the guy that they can put the World Heavyweight Championship on?
In no way, shape, or form.
You know what I mean?
There's no chance. No way. No chance. No. And no. No, they can't. I'm sorry. And look, as I said about Dean Ambrose, I think part of my irritation of Dean Ambrose is a lot of the vocal internet fans talking about how it's Ambrose, 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 Ambrose. And how nobody else could do it. Nobody else was. Ambrose, he was in ROH. Roman Reigns wasn't. Ambrose should be the chosen one. Roman Reigns shouldn't be. Reigns is being pushed down our throats. It should be Ambrose. It should be Ambrose. We've done this before, but let's go down the list of people the fans have advocated for and the results of that avocation. Zack Ryder. Daniel Bryan. Look where they are now.
Seth Rollins.
Yep. Seth Rollins. I still disagree. You seem to think they were behind Rollins. They weren't. They were behind Ambrose. Rollins happened and they were happy with it, but they were behind Ambrose.
You can CM Punk. He's another one.
Yeah, absolutely. But CM Punk, I think, had better success than, clearly Zack Ryder, and also Daniel Bryan, and probably even Seth Rollins at this point. I think Punk was a bigger star. Mm-hmm. But regardless of all that, Roman Reigns wins. And you said the match was shorter than you thought. It was interesting that it ended somewhere around 25 minutes to the top of the hour or something like that, where there was a lot of pay-per-view left. And as you said, we knew we'd see the celebration and all that. But I didn't think of a Sheamus cash-in because it didn't make sense to me once Triple H came out. I figured there'd be some shenanigans or something, but I thought that they would continue the rise of Roman, or the rise of the Roman Empire, if you will, as part of that celebration. But it would be the opposite. And Sheamus came out of nowhere with that brogue kick. And after he got the 1-2, you thought maybe that this would be a failed cash-in, of which we've seen few. No, it would not be. It would be another brogue kick and a 1-2-3 championship. I enjoyed it. It was not what I expected going into it. I expected a new champion. I didn't expect a cash-in, because guess what? I don't believe over the last few weeks they've mentioned or reminded us that Sheamus is Mr. Money in the Bank and can cash in at any point he wants.
I agree. You know what was the most entertaining part of the whole night, though?
What's that?
The New Day and Wade Barrett dancing.
Yep. Like, I gotta say, Dave, Sunday something happened. And I just want to confess to everybody, and I want to let the world know that Sunday I came to a realization. I came to a moment in my life I did not think I would come to, and I appreciate the support of the people I've talked to so far in my coming to grips with this fact. But I am ready to announce and say right here on the Double D podcast that I am a fan of the New Day.
Well, thank God you finally got there.
I look forward to the New Day. I enjoy the New Day. I'm entertained by the New Day. And I am looking forward to what's next. And what would be next, even on Monday night on Raw this past week, the whole country music celebration with the little donkeys that were riding and the hats. And
those were unicorns.
Were they white unicorns or black?
They were pink unicorns.
Oh, just damned pure entertainment. And I don't know if it seems like there's a lack of appreciation for it nowadays. But the fans, the New Day, they are, the three of them, performing perfectly together. They complement each other so well. There's clearly a chemistry there. They clearly like each other.
Wade Barrett was a great addition, also.
Absolutely, he was.
I mean, I saw where your seats were. He was grinding right in front of you guys.
Yeah, yeah, he sure was. It was a good overall pay-per-view Survivor Series, as I said, from the live event perspective. But you feel that what's next is Sheamus, Roman Reigns. We know that's going to be the rematch at TLC. It's going to be a TLC match between those two. But this is, I think, the journey of Roman Reigns, who is on the road to WrestleMania, who will become WWE champion at WrestleMania in Dallas, Texas, in front of 100,000 people. If you're Roman Reigns...
I can also see Roman Reigns winning at TLC.
Really?
In a war with Sheamus. Absolutely.
I think he needs more. I think he needs to be more of an underdog. I think he needs to get screwed over more before he actually wins the championship. Screw him out of the Rumble. Screw him out of the February pay-per-view. Screw him all the way through all of that But somehow or another, he finds his way into a match. They give him a chance because they have the confidence that he's not going to be able to do it because they've got plans to thwart him. And he gets into a match at WrestleMania and becomes the champion somehow, some way. Because ultimately, I don't think at this point in time, anybody's seeing a Sheamus main event at WrestleMania 32 in Dallas.
Nobody is. Nobody is.
But the question that need to be asked is, if not Sheamus and if not Roman Reigns, and this is an unfortunate question I have to ask, but who? Is it Brock Lesnar? Is it The Undertaker?
God, I have no idea.
You talk about the poster, David Hero, and we've seen the WrestleMania poster so far, and it's got some interesting talents on it and a lack of some interesting talents. But who is that headliner? What is the headlining main event for WrestleMania 32, given the current scenario in professional wrestling?
You know what? I have no idea. I really don't. Because right now, I mean, think about it. John Cena's gone.
Yep.
Randy Orton's hurt.
Cena will be back by Mania, though.
Oh, that's fine. Cesaro's hurt.
Yep.
Seth Rollins is out.
Yep.
It's like, I mean, you're looking at Ryback.
He was dancing.
You know what I mean?
Sunday.
Yes, he was.
I don't think so. I mean, but it's unfortunate. Have we been in this scenario in WWE any time in the last 20 years where you just did not have more than, or you had, well...
The closest it ever came to was when Austin was hurt. But then they still had DX and The Rock and Mick Foley.
That's the thing.
You know what I mean?
Currently, right now, WWE, is there a top guy in that company right now active on the roster?
The only top guy they have is Roman Reigns.
Yep. And top
and
guys
not, and the fans don't treat him like a top guy. That's the problem.
And top guys need to work with what? Other top guys. Otherwise, you don't care because it's lopsided. But I think that they've done what they can. I don't blame it. You can't blame WWE for injuries. You can't blame the talents for injuries. It's just the situation that they're in. However, there are several people that can be blamed for the lack of those top stars, and a lot of it has been just bad luck and getting behind, I guess you could say, the wrong people and people being called up, I guess, who didn't really turn into what they thought they would turn into. I mean, look at the fact that Alberto Del Rio is back in WWE, and you know there are rumors swirling around out there about other people they're talking to and other people they might be looking at bringing back, but that's like we talked about on Primetime a couple of months ago. That's going back to the veterans pool. That's going back to the been there, done that pool, if you will. I think at this point, and I know you're diametrically opposed to it, but I think at this point they don't have a choice but to do Undertaker versus Cena or Undertaker versus Sting at WrestleMania. They don't have a choice but to do one of those two matches.
It's definitely Taker versus Sting. Undertaker versus Cena only means something if Taker still had the streak.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got to do Taker Sting, and that could be your headlining main event. It may have to be.
that terrifies me.
Yeah, because it won't be a good match. I'm sorry,
No.
it'll be a good match because they're both great, but let's remember, Lesnar-Taker at Mania 30 wasn't the best of matches.
No. But it had the most intrigue.
And this one will as well. Think of the stories they could build. Just think of getting there, David. Think of getting to that match at WrestleMania 32, Sting versus The Undertaker. The match that never should have happened. Maybe one or both goes into the Hall of Fame. You build the entire weekend around that match that was never to happen, that everyone always wanted to happen, that is now going to happen. It's a spectacle, and it is a quote-unquote attraction that would draw and do what needs to be done at WrestleMania. And then I'm not sure if anything else matters, because a lot of times when you have such a great marquee match like that, the undercard becomes an afterthought. But when it delivers, look at WrestleMania 3. It's the same scenario. You had the headlining main event, the big match of Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant, but you had so much more happen on that pay-per-view that no one was paying attention to. Right. Until it happened. And one of those, namely being one of the greatest matches of all time, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat versus Macho Man Randy Savage. But remember, just so much happening on that pay-per-view and on that event. I think WrestleMania 32 is going to be a similar one. We know The Rock won't be there. We know Ronda Rousey won't be there. So we know Austin's not wrestling again. They've got Lesnar, they've got Taker, they've got Sting, they've got Roman Reigns, they've got John Cena. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Well, let's hope that Steve Austin can make an appearance.
I'm sure he'll make an appearance, but here's my question. Let's speculate on this. And he said no. They have said no. But do they go back and look at a Kurt Angle and bring Kurt Angle, who says he's done with TNA after the UK tour, bring him back? Because I think that would pay dividends for WWE.
The problem with Kurt Angle going back to WWE is that they don't think that the WWE doctors will give him clearance.
Yeah.
And that's part of the problem we're having right now with Daniel Bryan.
Right.
Is that 2 out of the 3 doctors won't let him return to the ring.
Daniel's doctor says yes, but the WWE doctors say no.
Right.
And
and they don't want to, and think about it. I mean, if Daniel Bryan goes back and gets hurt for the 3rd straight year, now you're talking lawsuit.
Yeah. Not that he'd do it, but yeah. Or worse. I mean, let's go back to the Benoit situation. Do you remember what came up and people were speculating on the causes for his breakdown and the concussions were a thing that were blamed on it?
Yep, exactly.
That's a big risk for a publicly traded company and one that, unfortunately, WWE can't take.
No, not at all.
Hulk Hogan's gone. They can't go to that well. They could, and maybe that's not going to dry up anytime soon, only because the trial is still yet to occur.
Well, and let's face it, Hulk Hogan can't even get in the ring anymore.
Yeah.
His back is so bad that, even if he can get in the ring, he probably can't get out.
Right.
So,
what about Jeff Hardy?
Right now, WWE is, I think Jeff and Matt Hardy together would be fantastic. But hey, let's face it, they brought back the Dudley Boys, and they wound up on the pre-show of Survivor Series.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a great match. It was actually a very entertaining match on the pre-show, so I wouldn't knock it, but that's true. But we all know why the Dudley Boys are there. Firstly, it's great to see them there, but secondly, they're going to continue to help build that tag team division by being able to work with some of these younger talents and enhance them and make them that much better.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, I'm sure the conversation will continue over the next few months leading into WrestleMania. TLC on December 23rd, I believe it is. No, December 13th. Should be intriguing as well. I wouldn't expect anything earth-shattering to happen there, but it seems like you're making an early prediction, David Hero, saying that you wouldn't be surprised if Roman Reigns walked out of that event the champion. So can they find 40 guys, 40 stars to put, or is it 30? It's 30 actually, to put in the Royal Rumble matchup to make it believable enough. Here's what, hey, I've got the grand idea. Are you ready, David Hero? The Royal Rumble this year, the Royal Rumble in 2016 in Orlando, Florida, is NXT and WWE. NXT gets a chance in the Rumble to go to WrestleMania and skyrocket to the top of the card in WWE by being participants in the Royal Rumble. So you get a Finn Balor, you get a Samoa Joe, you get a Rhino, you get all those people as entrants into the Royal Rumble. And it's not WWE versus NXT, but it's NXT's big break, big chance.
Absolutely. And here's why that is. It's in Orlando, which is the home base of NXT, which means a lot of that audience is very familiar with all those guys.
Yep.
So they'll all get great crowd reaction.
Yeah.
And, Samoa Joe will definitely be in there, and so will Finn Balor. And, and let's not forget, WWE, with their breaking ground on the network, they're also introducing to their audience, to their universe, these stars. Mm-hmm. So Baron Corbin is now becoming a household name simply because of the network.
Right. Well, it's going to be an interesting next couple of months, and again, we'll see the return of John Cena shortly here in WWE. And unfortunately for a lot of Cena haters, that's going to be a big deal because WWE needs John Cena. And proof right now that they need John Cena is the question of the fact that Raw and its ratings on Monday nights has dropped for the last 3 or 4 weeks substantially. They dropped substantially last week. From last week to this week, and this was the follow-up to a special event where arguably people were intrigued and wanted to tune in to see what happened. That didn't happen. They tuned out, actually. Is this cause for concern, or is it truthful what's being said, which is, and it's true, the ratings, television ratings, don't matter nearly as much as they used to, but one could argue that you make that argument when the ratings are down.
If it was after any... Listen, it is the Raw after the Survivor Series.
Uh-huh.
Huge.
Yeah.
It's huge that the numbers were that low.
Yep. I believe it was 2.7
million
viewers.
You know, the one thing, at least for me, is you always wanted to watch Raw after a pay-per-view because that's when new stuff happens.
Yep.
And when people aren't tuning in, it's like, wow. It's just, that's huge news.
Is this a reflection of Roman Reigns?
No, it's the reflection of how stale the product as a whole has gotten. And the fact is, the WWE, for the first time that I can ever remember, is torn because they don't know who to write their shows for anymore. Yeah. They don't know if they should write their show for the IWC, which is the vocal minority, or if they should write it for, Mr. and Mrs. Joe Walmart, the casual wrestling fan.
But isn't it true that they need to get Mr. and Mrs. Joe Walmart back because it's the casual fans they've lost because the vocal, and I don't think it's as big a minority as people think it is anymore, but the vocal crowd, the internet crowd, if you will, they are still tuning in, they are still watching, they are still tweeting, they are still engaging, they are still watching wrestling, and they will because they're hardcore fans, whether they
but they're not spending any money.
You're right. They're not spending any money, but they need the casual fan back. And the only way to get a casual fan back is to create another John Cena, to create another wrestler who has the look, the finesse, the pizzazz, the feel, and the coolness factor of making people want to tune in and follow that person. And if you look at the roster overall right now, there's one person that fits that pedigree. There's one person, like him or not, that is popular with the kids, popular with the ladies, will look good on Kimmel, will look good on the cover of People, will look great carrying that championship around to schools and doing charity work and whatnot. And that one person is Roman Reigns.
It is Roman Reigns. And you know what? It makes my heart feel good, Damien, to hear you finally agree with me on this. Because I've been preaching this for so long, and it is the honest-to-God truth. The Attitude Era was a success because of the stars they had, where the guys in the audience wanted to be Steve Austin, they wanted to be The Rock, they wanted to be the NWO, they wanted to be DX, and the women all wanted to date all those guys. Right now, in the current roster, the guys don't want to be Dolph Ziggler, okay? The guys want to be Bray Wyatt.
I think they want to be Kevin Owens. I think they want to be Dean Ambrose because it's easy.
Okay, so they want to be Kevin Owens and they want to be Bray Wyatt and some want to be Dean Ambrose, okay? The women don't want to sleep with Kevin Owens and Bray Wyatt. So they're not going to buy a ticket just for them. I mean, we were out with some beautiful women over the weekend in Atlanta, and they were huge Roman Reigns fans because he's quote-unquote hot. They wanted to see Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
That's how you bring a more diverse an audience that's going to spend more money. Mm-hmm. Because when the women are there, more guys will show up. That's why they have ladies' nights at bars. You know what I mean?
Right.
They want to bring the guys. They want to bring the guys in that are going to spend the money.
Yeah. Yep.
If there's women in the audience, you're making money, and that has always been true.
Well, they've got a long road ahead, as does Roman Reigns, going into the next couple of events and going into WrestleMania 32, which they've got to build pretty quickly here. And we've heard about record ticket sales, and we've heard about how great the event's going to be. But you know what? We've not seen any numbers. So those record ticket sales could be a record indeed, but they're on their way to 100,000. Now, it's WWE and their production is bar none. So if it isn't 100,000, you ain't going to see empty seats in the place. You're just going to see different production scale. But that's a high ticket. And what sold 93,173 tickets back in '87 at the Pontiac Silverdome, Dave? It was one match that sold that.
Yeah.
One match sold it.
Denver said Andre the Giant. Yes.
Yep. That's what sold it.
But unfortunately, they don't have that magic in 2015.
No.
You don't have a Hulk Hogan versus a quote-unquote undefeated Andre the Giant to headline WrestleMania.
Right. Yeah. Well, this conversation will continue, but a couple of other things happening on the PWR Now network right now, David Hero. We launched the very first edition of the Hotline with Mean Gene Okerlund just before the Survivor Series this past Sunday. We recorded several podcasts with Gene, got them in the can, and you're going to see the Hotline coming out on a more regular basis over the course of the next few weeks. And it's just always great to spend some time with the legendary Hall of Famer Mean Gene Okerlund. And we did so again at the Hard Rock Cafe in Atlanta, just in advance of the event. Want to thank all the great people who showed up to that event. Had our own private little party before the event, before the Survivor Series in Atlanta at the Hard Rock Cafe. And big news, David Hero, we look to be doing the same thing for the Royal Rumble in January at the Hard Rock Cafe in Orlando, Florida, which, by the way, is a huge and tremendous venue at Universal City Walk.
Yes. And you know what? It's amazing how much we learn from Mean Gene every time we're around him. Is there a more dignified, smooth character than Mean Gene Okerlund?
Nope, there certainly is not.
No. And just the knowledge and the quick wit that he has and his knowledge of small caliber handguns.
There it is.
Absolutely amazing.
I want to share the best Gene moment of the weekend, if that's okay. We were at a local watering hole, and we were ordering drinks.
Hold on. It was called Meehan's. Let's give them credit. It was fantastic.
It was fantastic. They did take very good care of us. And we're ordering drinks, and there was a challenge with the drink Gene had ordered, and it every time was coming differently, but it was still basically along the lines of what he had ordered. So another one gets there. He puts his drink down, puts his arm on the table, hand on face, and pouts for a good 14 seconds. No words, but the look of sheer disappointment on his face. And then he breaks the silence with the following line. Does anyone happen to have a small caliber handgun so I could put it to the roof of my fucking mouth? I damn near fell out of my chair at that moment because it was the timing, the delivery, and the genuine nature of the statement.
You died. You absolutely died.
A small caliber handgun. Oh, Gene.
But that's just Gene. The quick wit that he has, the stories that he tells, and just his execution. I mean, he is a lost art.
Absolutely, he is.
Because they don't make him like Mean Gene Okerlund at all anymore. And if you get the opportunity to meet us in Orlando or meet us in Dallas, to be a part of these meet and greets and these podcasts with Mean Gene Okerlund, you really need to be there because he is, without a doubt, a legend. And legend, I mean, we call him a legend. He's much more, he is a Hall of Famer. Just the experience you get from hanging out with Mean Gene Okerlund is worth everything. I mean, everyone talks about meeting Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Ric Flair. Mean Gene helped make those careers by being as good as he is, by doing the interviews with those talents.
Yeah, he was ever present. He was always, it was Mean Gene, and he was always right there. And the thing about Gene that a lot of people may not understand, he has a lifetime contract with WWE. He still works regularly with WWE. As a matter of fact, he came from working from WWE to Atlanta for this event. And if there's anybody, he's one of the few people that truly does know everything that's going on in that company. Because we're not going to disclose the name, but months ago, we were having a conversation and we were told about a star that might be returning and could be on his way back. And Gene, he actually never said the name, or he did say the name, but he never said that this is happening. We had a conversation, and a couple months later, that star who nobody thought would ever be back was back.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just like, that's why the Hotline was so successful.
Right. And the Hotline, again, will be successful. It is available. We actually dropped the first episode onto YouTube, our YouTube channel as well, pwrshow.com, and, of course, on the PWR Now podcast network, which, of course, is free of charge. And we appreciate the thousands of you who are downloading these episodes on a regular basis. The content is king at PWR Now, the network, and you can get it at your leisure, on your device, on demand, iTunes. And we just found out, actually, David Hero, we're going to be featured on the Google Play podcast store. When that becomes available, Google Play will be launching its own podcast store, similar to the iTunes podcast network, in the next few months, and PWR is in on the ground floor with the PWR Now network for that. We want to encourage you to check out the Hotline with me and Gene Okerlund. Many more coming. I understand we are in the final stages of negotiations with our first female wrestling podcast star coming to the PWR Now network very, very soon. And as, of course, Al Snow, the head podcast with Al Snow, coming as well. It is definitely a one-stop shop for pure entertainment in professional wrestling, and only the Pro Wrestling Report Now network can bring it to you.
It is going to be a podcast full of shenanigans between Mean Gene, Al Snow, and our next guest that we can probably announce next week.
You want to do that next week? That sounds great.
Yeah, I think we should. Absolutely.
Well, we touched on it briefly, and in closing here, we want to talk a little bit about Cesaro. Cesaro out with a rotator cuff injury, going to require surgery. He's going to be out, it looks like, about 6 months. This a blow, because I think Cesaro is one of those stars that could be of Guerrero, Benoit quality, as far as just being so unique and technical and doesn't need to talk per se, but can deliver solidly in that ring, and the fans were getting very, very solidly behind him. A tough break for Cesaro at this time.
It is, because right now with all the guys that are out, he could have definitely been elevated because the fans were getting behind him. But now that he's going to be gone, the fans are going to pop even more for him when he finally does make his return.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. 6 months, though, takes us beyond April.
Yeah, they're saying 4 to 6. And Cesaro is in such great shape that I wouldn't be surprised if he's back right before WrestleMania.
Yeah, could be. Could be. Well, David, we stuck with all wrestling on this Double D.
I know. What the heck, man?
There's a lot going on, a lot to talk about, and I definitely think it was a good conversation. But we want to invite you guys to join us again as the Double D returns next week here to the PWR Now Network. Also, don't forget to check out Reaction, which is done for Raw, which is done for NXT. It's the live follow-up show where you can call in and be a part of it with Meathead and the man they call, with Meathead and Matthew Thomas, and also Reaction each and every Monday and Wednesday night live, and then available after the fact on the PWR Now Network as well. All of that content available 100% free and on demand on the PWR Now Network. David, I don't know if there's another show other than the Pro Wrestling Report that is bringing you regular video content, regular podcast content, regular live radio content, and great events throughout the world and throughout the country with a great partner known as Hard Rock Cafe. This is the one-stop shop.
Oh, good God. Yeah, absolutely. At Hard Rock Cafe, they were so great to us in Atlanta. They were fantastic to us in St. Louis.
They're going to be fantastic in Orlando, and they're going to be fantastic in Dallas as well. But with that, folks, this has been the Double D Podcast, and we are going to call it a day for today. We'll see you again soon here on the Double D. For David Hero, this is Damian Nelson saying so long, everybody, and feel free to subscribe to the PWR Now Network.
Thanks for listening to the Double D Podcast. If you like what you just heard, and we know you did, subscribe now and join us on Twitter by following @2DPod. This has been a production of PWR LLC. Join us next time for another edition of the Double D Podcast. Until then, take care of yourselves, because, well, no one else will. Deuces!